So officially, welcome to, I think this is round 6 of our Sinatra Journal app. And today's target, as I just mentioned, would be to finish out our MVP. So I would like to, I'm going to go ahead and open up the spec.md file and look through. It looks like we've already knocked out a couple of these. And I know that user has many entries, so this one's done. I've got a lot of this stuff, and now I think where I am, I've got a couple of things left to do. I need a user to be able to delete his or her journal entries. Okay, we need full CRUD on the belongs to side of the relationship. So when I log in, I should be able to create, read, update, and delete my journal entries. I don't have that yet. So that's why I have this listed as pending. I think, you know what, I'm going to format this a little bit better so we can actually read it. Let's do this. Oops. Let's just go here, enter, just so we can, just for the sake of making this a little easier to read. Oops. There we go. This is pending. So this one I don't have an explanation for because this doesn't really need one. So we're working on this. And that's, I think, where we're going to start. So we're working on the CRUD actions for a user being able to create, read, update, and destroy his or her own blog posts. Along with that, we're going to protect our routes to make sure that as a user I can't destroy or edit someone else's blog posts or journal entries, I should say. And we'll talk a little bit about user validations as well, or I should say input validations. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. Git add dot, git commit, I'll just say update spec file. Okay. And by the way, if you have questions, please shout them out. If you don't remember where we are, we can sort of review anything you want. And let's go ahead and run Shotgun. Did I run Shotgun yet? I did. Let's go to our app and let's see what it looks like. So we're working in a behavior-driven, spec-driven, but behavior-driven environment here. We don't have a test file, so I'm not running spec tests, but I have a spec file and then the behavior in the browser. And that's how we're building this out. What, a gem load error? I haven't had this happen before. You've activated rack 2.0.6, but your gem file requires rack 2.0.5. Okay, so sometimes you'll see errors like this. It's a boot error. Something went wrong while loading config.ru. That means that we failed to actually even load our application. If you see something like this, there's a couple things we can do. First of all, there's a suggestion here. We can prepend bundle exec to the command line. So if I kill this server and say bundle exec shotgun, what that's doing is it's saying, we recognize that there's a little bit of a conflict in terms of versions, but we want to try to push forward anyway. Nadia, did you have a question? If you wouldn't mind, Nadia, would you mind deleting your mic? Or sorry, not deleting, muting your mic unless you have a question? Or are you muted? Or was it not you? I'm not sure. Yeah, just please make sure you have your mics muted if you're not asking a question. Okay. So now let's see if I refresh the page. It's now loading. So we just took the advice of what was listed there. So we used bundle exec. We could also go and remove the requirement from the gem file or the gemfile.lock, delete the tool, and probably work there as well. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Okay, and I am howard@howard.com with the password of password. See, we should be logging in. We're sending a post request from this form. And let's see what happens. All right, there I'm on my show page. And it looks like I've got the links up here. I don't ever want a user to have to type anything in the URL, so I've got my logout route. I can see all journal entries. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so right now I don't even have an index page for journal entries, according to this. And if I scroll through my journal entries controller, looks like that's true. Well, maybe we're a little further back than I thought we were, but that's not a big deal. I do have a journal entries index page, but it's simply some text that says index page for journal entries. So let's go ahead and fix that. I don't think that's going to take very long. What do I need to add to my controller, and what do I need to add to this view? Let's start with the controller. And it's pretty easy because Sinatra tells us exactly what's missing. We don't have a route that matches what was just sent for. To fix that, I'm literally going to copy what's there, and I'm actually going to put it up near the top because I think the index page belongs up here. Doesn't really matter because it's not going to match or conflict with any other routes. And what do I want to do instead of hello world? Am I going to render or redirect at the end of this controller action? Oh, sorry, Nadia, you said you're already muted. I don't know why it was showing. It's my screen is showing that it is also, but it's also showing that you're making sound. It's really strange. Sorry. Okay, so today I has a recommendation to remove the nav bar from the landing page and showing it only if logged in. I think that's a really good recommendation. So let's sort of put that in our pocket and think about going forward with that. And you're saying we should ERB index, and Sushi is reminding us that before we ERB index, we need to load all the journal entries from the database. You are all 100% correct. So I'm going to take your recommendations to heart and just execute exactly as you have them. So I'm going to say journal entries equals journal entry.all. Why do I need to use an instance variable here? Why can't I just use a local variable like this? Anyone? To access it in the corresponding view. That's right, Sushi. If I use a local variable like this, what's the scope of this local variable? This is just a basic Ruby question. What's the scope of any local variable? It's not to the class. Class variables are scoped to the class. And actually, here, this is, so to the method is a good answer. And the reason that we call these, sometimes these variables are called method variables. I don't like that name. I like saying local variables, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is, notice that here we have a method invocation, not a method declaration. And then we're passing a block. Okay, do end surrounds a block. So variable invocation, we're passing a block. So there is no variable, there's no method declaration here. So can anyone identify the scope of journal entries? It's not to a method and it's not to a class. It's block scoped. That's exactly right. Okay, so this is a block scoped. Variable because it's a local variable, and it's scoped to the block. So as soon as we hit this end statement, this variable is gone. No access. It's gone. We have absolutely no access to it going forward. And so that's why it needs to be an instance variable. An instance variable is scoped to the instance in which it's created. Here, it seems like a little bit of a strange territory. Like, where are we right now? We're inside of a block. And that's where I'm creating this instance variable. But the way Sinatra is written, with the classes and the inheritance patterns that are provided, this is going to be scoped to the instance of application controller that's current, okay? Which has to do with, as we navigate, we create new instances of application controller. We don't. The code does in the background all the time. And so we're going to scope that. That's where this thing's going to be scoped to, which is great. That's where we want it to be scoped to. And to be brutally honest, it may not even be an instance of application controller. I'd have to look. I would actually have to do a little research to identify exactly which class instance we're scoped to, whether it's application controller or whether it's up the chain somewhere a little further, which is we're not going to get into right now, but that's the idea. Okay, cool. So then we said ERB index, sorry, journal entries index. Journal entries index. Remember, this is a file reference as opposed to when we redirect, we reference a route. So this is a file reference looking for a folder called journal entries in our views. There it is. And an index.erb, there it is. Okay? So now, just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and say @journal entries, which is our instance variable, and refresh this page. So now the get request should match, and the ERB method call should invoke, I should say we're invoking our ERB, and we're directing it to look inside of this file, and there it is. And notice that here I just get this hash sign, or this pound sign, whatever you want to call it, where I use an ERB tag to show an object. And that's what happens if we try to expose a Ruby object without any sort of formatting. We just get this sort of hash sign, right? And that doesn't do us any good. So what do I actually want to do with this thing? Help me. Anyone? Journal entries.all. So journal entry.all is what's living already inside of this variable. So this variable isn't just one object, it's a collection of objects. So we're actually going to iterate exactly. We're going to iterate through this with an each do. So we're going to say journal entries.each do, and I'm going to call each one a journal entry. And it's a good idea to label our block arguments according to what they are. And I'm going to go ahead and add my end so I don't forget it. Okay. And what do I want to do inside of here? What information would be handy? What do I want to show? It's up to us, right? What do we want to show for each journal entry? I think journal entries only have content, but they also have timestamps. And I think for journal entries, timestamps make sense. So let's see, whoops. I'm going to say something like journal, there we go, entry, dot content, and let's say dot created at, and see what comes up as well. And this is not formatted, so this is going to be kind of ugly, but I'll just throw a break in there, maybe a couple of them to separate them and see what happens. Okay, and we're going to see a couple of interesting things here, I hope. Yeah, we didn't give them a title or a name, and Sushi, I think that's a good idea. I think we should give them a title or a name. Okay, awesome. So we got an error. Errors are always opportunities for learning. Okay, so let's figure out what this error is telling us. First of all, it's a syntax error. @journal entries / journal entries. @views journal entries index ERB2 syntax error unexpected closing smooth parenthesis. Okay, great. So @views journal entries index.erb. So that's where we are here. And on line 2, it's telling us that it sees a closing smooth parenthesis that it doesn't expect. Does anybody else see a closing smooth parenthesis?
Howard, I think the first line, journal entries, should be without the equal sign.
Yes, you're 100% correct. Who is that, Alwina?
Yes.
Yes, you are correct about that. You exposed my game. I was going to show what happens when we don't do that. So if we, I don't think that's the, I don't know why that, I don't feel like this error is matching though what I expected. Let me see if I put that back, if that's actually causing the error itself. It is. Okay, I didn't expect that to cause an error. I expected what I expected this to do was to show us a collection at the bottom of the screen. But instead it actually caused an error. So that's great. Good catch. Good catch. A couple of you pointed it out. You all are exactly correct. When we start an iteration within an ERB tag, we don't want to use the display tag. Instead, we want to simply use the execution tag there. Yeah, exactly. Good. Nice job, guys. And so now what I see is this horribly unformatted list of these journal entries. So let's change that just a little bit. Maybe we'll say that I think the date kind of can I think we should add like a title or something like that to these things, which we don't have yet. We can do that down the road. But maybe the date is what we'll use as the title for now. So we'll make this like a tiny header, like an H6. That way they'll be separated and we'll be able to tell what's what. H6, I believe, is still the smallest header, and we'll make the content maybe a P tag, short for paragraph, of course. Let's see what that formatting looks like. Okay, so maybe H6 is a little too small. Let's try H4. That might feel a little bit better. And then another stretch goal we could do would be to go back to these journal entries and format this time to make it look a little bit nicer. Right now, I'm simply pulling the created at, which is readable, but like who uses UTC, right? UTC is like the universal time, which is, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or something like that. I don't know. So I don't think that's useful. But for now, it's doing the job, so that's okay. And I think I'll say all journal entries. So what might we want to do instead of just showing these as a header? What if I want to like view some more details about these? I don't have a lot more details, of course, about these entries, but what might I want to do instead of having each one of these be a header? Or what other information?
Anchor tag?
Yeah, let's make them links, right? So that's simple enough. I can just say, okay, each one of these, I think we can have anchor tags be children of headers. We'll find out soon enough. And what should the href be? Where would I be sending someone?
To the show page?
Exactly. So that's journal entries, and then I need the actual ID of this journal entry. Oops. If I can remember how to do this, journal entries. Oh, I need ERB tags. Journal entry.id. Okay, save that. And then maybe I want to say, this is, by the way, a list of all journal entries, not just my journal entries. So maybe I want to say who wrote it. And we'll say by. And how would I access the journal entries author? How do I know who wrote this thing?
User ID.
Okay, I could use the ID, but I actually want to show someone like who wrote it. So what part of the user would I actually want to display? I think the ID would be sort of mysterious.
Is it the username?
Yeah,
Do you
let's.
have a username for it?
Yeah, we just have name. So we'll just use name. I think that's a great idea. Good job. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So now this should look a little bit better, and further, I should have some links. If I didn't screw it up, which of course I might have. Now these look linkable or clickable. And if I look at one, I can see there it is. And now I have this link to edit. If I go back, that was mine. What if I click on Sherry's? I should be able to see the details, but hopefully I won't see those links to edit and delete. Uh-oh. So this could be a problem, right? Now I can click on the edit link and let's see what happens. Okay, so I got kicked back to my show page. So that's good. It looks like I have my edit page protected. What if I try to delete? That's not even a link. It just says delete link. Oh, because we didn't build that out yet. Before we build out edit and delete links, which is what we're doing today, or part of what we're doing today, should I even be able to see these links? This is Sherry's journal entry, and I'm logged in as Howard. Should I be able to see these links at all? No. That's a good answer. Sherry's like, no, you cannot edit my journal entries. That's ridiculous, right? And you're right, it is ridiculous. No way, I should be able to do that. So there are different ways that we make those protections. The strong protections happen in the controllers, but we can put a little bit of weak protections in the views as well. And what I mean by that, and hopefully it's been drilled in your heads, we don't put logic in views, but we do occasionally. And in this case, I think it makes sense. So this in fact is a journal entries show page. So let's look at that real quick. And here I have the edit link and the delete link, or really a placeholder for the delete link. And I don't need this, by the way, anymore. This was just a label. I don't even want to see these links unless I own this journal entry. So I'm going to go ahead and create an if statement and an end statement. And I'm only going to display these if I own this journal entry. So what is the logic that I need to put inside of this if statement? I could use a helper method, okay? But before I build a helper method, let's just think about what do I want to know? If what? I could write it in English first. If I am the person who owns this entry, show, edit, and delete links. Okay, that's what I want to do in English, right? But what does that actually look like in code? How do I build that out as a condition?
Could that also be, I know someone put in the chat, logged in, is it also current user?
Oh yeah, so today that's what you meant. 100% what you meant, and you're exactly right. Use the helper method that I already built. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so how would I do that? So current user, yes, yes, sorry, I misread that. If current user, what? So current user, how would I make this comparison? If current user is the user, and then how do I expose the user of a journal entry given the object in a variable? Like I have at journal entry, which represents the journal entry whose show page we're on. How can I compare that against the current user? Active record, because I have journal entries have many, or users have many journal entries, journal entry belongs to a user, I have a method called what? What active record method can I now invoke here that will return the user who owns this particular journal entry? Who can help me out here? I'm comparing the actual current user object. Okay, there we go, dot user. Yes, today, that's right. And so a couple other good suggestions like, well, don't we want to know that there is a current user? Yes, yes. And if there isn't, this will return null, which certainly null won't, or nil, I mean, not JavaScript, Ruby. So nil won't equal the current user, so that will fail, which is fine, right? So current user, remember, already checks the session ID, and we definitely want this object to make sure that this object is the same as that object. This user is the same as this user. I could do the same. I could compare their IDs, right? Right. But I could just compare the objects too, and that should work. Okay. So I'm only now going to show these things if I own this journal entry. Does that make sense? And I say that this is a weak protection, like not a strong protection, because I could still go manipulate the URL by hand, at least to show the edit form. It's a slightly stronger protection on the delete link, because the delete link might send that delete already for us, which we haven't filled in the gaps there. Why not use user as a helper method? The difference between user and current user. Okay, the difference between user and current user in this case, and we did use the helper method. If we split this down, my application controller where I have my helpers, I have two helper methods, logged in and current user. Logged in simply references current user and returns a Boolean of whether there is a current user or not. Current user looks in the database and finds a user based on the ID that's been assigned to the user ID key in the session hash. So if this doesn't exist, this will fail. In other words, if someone's not logged in, this will return nil. This will return nothing. Current user will be assigned to nil, and logged in will be false. So if current user is nil, that's good enough. So we are using this helper method right here. We're assigning it to an instance variable only to eliminate calls to the database. Understand, if I do that, this is still working the same way. The difference is by using that tactic called memoization with an instance variable, I'm simply, if I use the current user method more than once within a view, I'm saving calls to the database. That's the only part that that's the only thing that this part of the code does. This will function the same way. Okay. These are virtually identical. That's just, oops. This is just a little more efficient. Okay. Can't you have user as a helper method? I'm going to say no. What would user be? User as like a, are you saying like def user, whoops, Iser. User, so it would be like the person who owns the, so it'd be something like if journal entry, first of all, if there is a journal entry object, then I would return the journal entry.user. Is this what you mean? And then like else nil, right? So I basically return the current user or nil. Are you saying build like an authorize, something like this? If current user, then return, oops. Okay, I'm okay with this. Like otherwise nil or authorized. This should return. Let's say authorized as a question mark. Yeah, this works. So if there's a journal entry object, the problem is like this. Honestly, I think this should be passed in to this method. So this would be journal entry. So this, I'm okay with this as a helper method. Something called authorized, where it receives a journal entry object, and if the journal, so what we could actually do is simply return journal entry.user equals current user. I'm okay with this. Is this what you meant? Yeah, you know what, this is fine. This is totally fine, because you're right, we're going to have to do this a bunch of times. So authorized, I'll say authorized to edit. I think that's okay. And we're simply returning true or false based on whether the journal entry that's passed in belongs to the current user. This is totally fine. All right, I love this actually. You know what? This is great. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to say if authorized to edit, it's a question mark because it's going to return a Boolean, and I'm going to pass in journal entry. Yeah, this is great. Awesome. Helper methods are wonderful. Okay, so I totally ran full circle there from saying no, let's not build a helper method to let's go ahead and do it, and I like it. So cool, that works. Yes, and we could use the same method for the edit link. Wait, I think we use the same method. Right. I'm not too sure. Yeah, that's what we're doing here, right? Today we're making sure that we're only showing these links if this thing returns true. We are authorized to edit, right? And authorized to edit, I think, it implies to delete as well, right? Authorized to edit or delete. We could say something like current user owns journal entry or something. We could play with the name of this, but I'm okay with this for now. And I think this is a method, by the way, that we'll be able to use in our controllers. Okay, we basically have this logic elsewhere. Cool. So let's now refresh the page. I'm looking at Sherry's journal entry. I should no longer see those links. They're gone, which is great. Okay, good. We're getting somewhere. Awesome. So now I have the ability to look at all the journal entries, which I don't mind exposing them all right now as public. That's kind of how we designed this. And I could look at somebody else's, but I don't see links to edit. And I think if we look at the controller for the render edit form, which is journal entries ID edit right here, set journal entry, and now I have if logged in, and I can simply say if authorized to edit, and I pass in the journal entry object that I've created with my other helper method here on line 45, except I actually have to do that and not mistype it. There we go. Cool. So this is good. This is a little bit sleeker. That looks nice. And everywhere I have that, I can now change that, right? This is the same logic. I can now modify that with a helper method, which I'm going to go back and do, probably not today, just for the sake of time, but that's definitely something we'll do in the next session. We'll go back and not only refactor this with a helper method, we'll think about how this logic, if logged in, else redirect, I could probably encapsulate this into a helper method as well. But that's going to be something we'll refactor down the road, only because I know I've got a lot to do in the next 30 minutes. Okay.
Howard, before you continue, maybe to do
Yes.
a git commit.
My Git watchdog. Thank you, Alwina. Absolutely. So let's run a Git status, and I've changed way too much, of course, for this. Let's say what is. So let's do sort of reverse app views journal entries show. And git commit, what I did was protect, edit, and delete, delete links. Okay. And let's add app controllers, application controller, and here I added a helper method, add authorized to edit helper method. And where am I now? Git add app views journal entries index. I actually built this page out. Yeah. Build out journal entries index view. And what's left? App controllers, journal entries controller, and here I also added the index view, git, or the index action. If you accept this commit, it will add index action to journal entries controller. I shouldn't have written it like this, but that's okay, whatever. Git status, we should be all up to date. Let's go ahead and push all that up. Cool, awesome. Thank you very much. All right, so now we're somewhat up to date, and I think the next step is let's give ourselves the ability to delete an entry. So if I look at all my journal entries, or all the journal entries, and I decide to look at one that I own, hey, today is Tuesday. Let's see. And it is snowing in the Catskills. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's just get rid of the first one. I want to be able to delete this thing. So right now I just have this little placeholder for a delete link. Let's make this thing live. And there's a couple ways that we can do that. First, let's look in the controller. What action do I need to add to my journal entries controller in order to be able to delete a journal entry? Anyone? What does that route look like? Sinatra, go ahead.
Delete.
Yep.
And then the journal entry ID.
Okay, just the ID itself, and that's it?
No, with the journal entries /ID.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And then I need the block. And this is the RESTful version. So sometimes you might see like /delete. That's unnecessary. The combination of the HTTP verb and the URL give us a unique route here that we don't need to add any more to. We need the identifier in order to get the journal entry. We know what domain or what model, I should say, what resources we're deleting, and that's enough information. The resource, an identifier, and the method. So that's it. That's going to correspond to the HTTP request that we send in terms of the verb and the URL. So what do we need to do inside of here? And I already have, by the way, a method to set journal entry, which we can certainly use. I need to find or get that journal entry. That gives me the instance variable inside this block, journal entry, based on the params ID. Okay, and then what? Now what? What do we want to do here? So you're saying if logged in. I like that. And beyond even just if logged in, I think we can now use our if authorized to edit, right? Because authorized to edit refers to current user. Current user is only going to be available if someone is logged in. So I think you're on the right track there, Sherry, and I think we can go even further based on that nice method that we just built. So if, where are we here? If authorized to edit, question mark, passing in the journal entry instance variable that comes from our helper method. Then what do I want to do? So this is successful deletion. This should be, what do I want to do inside of here? I actually want to delete the entry. Okay, and then go somewhere. Yeah, and then down here I just want to go somewhere. Oops, after go somewhere else, not deleted. Okay, so journal entries.delete and journal entries.destroy. Okay, awesome. I love that we have both of these suggested. What's the difference between delete and destroy? Does anybody know? The difference is kind of subtle, but also really important. I honestly, like, if anyone could explain the difference to me, I would be like so proud. But also kind of surprised. Not surprised by you. You are all amazing, smart students. It's something that we probably didn't get into very much yet in the curriculum, I think. And it's kind of like well, let me just ask, does anybody know what the difference is between delete and destroy? They're both active record methods. Does one leave a blank record behind? No, they both take care of deleting the record. Let's look it up. So I'm going to say, what's the difference between active record, delete, and destroy? And I'm going to bet like $1 million there's a Stack Overflow post on this. And look, there it is. And I bet it's probably a good answer. And it's exactly it. And this is it. Destroy runs callbacks on the model while delete doesn't. What in the world does that mean? What's a callback? What's a callback? Sometimes we might call it a hook. Okay, so destroy will also remove its associated children. Okay, that's good. So not just delete it and leave like, so in other words, if there are children of this thing, and we have a belongs to relationship on another resource, and that belongs to requires this thing to exist for its own existence, maybe a join model or something like that, then those things will subsequently also be deleted. And part of that is the callbacks. Callbacks are methods that are invoked at certain times. Certain life cycle events will invoke a callback. We actually have what feels kind of like a callback here. We don't use it, it's not properly a callback because we're choosing when to call it, but like once we hit the Rails, we might do something like this. And this is a little bit of Rails stuff, but if I could say like before action, what is it? Get, what did I call it? Set journal entry. Set journal entry, okay? And then I might say like only, you'll see code like this, show, edit, update, and delete, or something like that, or destroy. Destroy. And so this is, so why are you showing this Rails stuff? Well, this is what a callback might look like. I'm saying that before a particular action, so before any of these things are invoked, I want to make sure to do this. An active record actually offers a whole bunch of this kind of things. We can set stuff like this inside the models, okay? We could do something like, and I might get the names of the methods wrong, but I'm not too worried about it. I just want to give you an overview. Like user, I might say something like before, I'll say before update. And maybe I have some method called puts, this is kind of like very trivial, but like puts hello, right? I don't know why, or puts warning. And maybe I want to def puts warning is going to be something like that's like, I don't know. Why did my syntax highlighting just not pick up there? That's weird. I don't know. Puts warning, you are about to update this record or something like that, right? So this is going to fire. If I ever use the update method now, this thing's going to fire, right? And so the hook that would fire, or I should say the callback that might fire on delete would be like either before delete or before destroy. I forget which one it is. Okay, but before destroy, I'm going to put this warning, you're about to destroy this record. And so what this might be would be maybe warnings, maybe like things that need to happen, little cleanup, tidying, housekeeping things that should happen before we destroy something. Okay, and so this would be an example of one of those callback methods that's like, again, I might not have the right syntax, but like before destroy, we're going to do this thing or whatever this list of items needs to happen. Okay, and that's the idea. So delete will simply pluck that thing out and throw it away without telling anybody, without invoking any of these other methods. Destroy allows us to make a much more cleaner break when we delete something. Okay. Any questions about that? That'll come a little more handy once you get into Rails than it is right now in Sinatra, or at least you'll be thinking about that maybe a little bit more. Okay. So let's use destroy because it's much nicer, or I like to use destroy. Wow, now I'm just writing destroy. Journal entry dot destroy. And then where do we want to go then? In either case, let's say we just destroyed a journal entry. So do we need journal entry .find by ID params ID? We have that here. Set journal entry is a helper method that we built a couple of sessions ago, and that executes exactly the code that you just wrote there, Sherry. So you're exactly right. We definitely need this, and we have it. Okay, so when this method is invoked, it gives us this journal entry instance that we can now manipulate. That's what this line of code does. Okay, so journal entry.destroy. So should we be rendering or redirecting from here? What do you guys think? Who votes rendering? Who votes redirecting? Okay, I've got 2 redirects.
Render.
I've got a render, redirect. The redirects are winning, and the redirects are right. Okay. Somebody did say render. I'm not sure who. Let's think about it. Can somebody who's bold and willing to explain why is redirect the right choice here? Somebody's got a good explanation for this. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Is it because we are looking for we are looking for the ID of the user who is in who's currently the current user?
So
and
here,
that's why we're redirecting.
I'm not sure if that's so. Here's where we do find authorized to edit finds the current user down here and makes a comparison and only allows us to proceed if that current user owns the journal entry. So that does happen. I'm not sure if that's exactly why redirect is the right choice here. And I'm going to say that either of these needs to be a redirect. Doesn't matter what happens, whether we're successful or not. Either of these needs to be a redirect. And the reason for that, actually, I think, Sushi, you've written it in the chat, separation of concerns. And remember that whenever we build a method, or in this case, we're building controller actions and passing a block, whatever happens in this block should be whatever the job of this action is. What's the job of this delete action? It has one job. And the job of this action is simply to delete a journal entry. It's going to do a quick check to make sure that it's allowed, but its only job is to delete that entry. And then once that's done, it's to send us on its way. So it's not the job of this action to show us anything. It's going to be the job of a get request to show us something, okay? Get. We're showing something. We're showing a form, or we're showing some information. So if in a delete, so delete, patch, and post request actions are generally going to end in redirects because it's not the job of those actions to show us anything. Notice that we don't have, in our views, we don't have a create.erb or an update.erb or a delete.erb because that's not the job of these controller actions. The job of these controller actions is to take care of some action, some stuff, some things in the back end, and then send us on our way. Does anybody have questions about that? Is everybody okay with that? Is that fuzzy for anyone? Because it's an important thing to wrap your head around. And it can be a little bit confusing, but a general rule of thumb that's usually pretty good is for our get requests, we're going to end up in with an ERB because we need to show something. And for all of our other HTTP verbs that expect to change something on the back end, their job is going to be to change something in the controller action and then send us on our way somewhere where we will view something. Okay, there are some exceptions here and there, but for the most part, that's going to be our pattern. So the question then as a developer, it's up to us. Where do we want to send someone once they've deleted a journal entry? Totally our call. We could send them back to their own show page. We could send them back to the list of all the journal entries. What do we think? We can make that decision here. What do we want to do? Go back to the index. I think the index feels nice too. And by the way, let's see what that looks like. If I'm going to redirect to journal entries, and then suppose that someone journal entries. Oh my gosh. So redirect to journal entries. I think this is fine. By the way, what if someone was not allowed to, somehow managed, I don't know how, maybe they use Postman or something. They managed to somehow mock up and send this delete request that actually made it into this controller action, but they didn't own the thing so it didn't get destroyed. Where do we want to send them? Back to login? Well, okay, so we don't actually, all right, so this is a good point that you bring up. Like, how do we know if somebody's logged in or not? They should have been able to send this request if they weren't logged in. So I think going back to the index is okay. But login is not a bad idea, and I'm going to stick that in my back pocket because when we come back and refactor these with some further helper methods on the next session, we'll talk about that. This is a good thought. But I'm going to go ahead and say I'm actually going to do the same thing, redirect to the index for this as well. And it's up to us what we want to do there. I would only want to send someone back to the login page if I knew for a fact that they weren't logged in. And that's a piece of logic that we currently don't have here. I could say if, okay, you know what? I could say, I like this. You know what? I'm going to say if logged in and they're authorized to edit. Is that necessary? Let's see. Authorized to edit. If they're not logged in, this is going to return nil. This will fail. So actually that is redundant. We don't need this. But I do like that thought. So and we're going to fix that with a helper method, I think, in the next session. So we'll think about that. So I'm going to actually build something, a little comment, build helper method for redirecting if not logged in. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit of a stretch goal. Cool. Let's see. So I think now that should work. Now let's try it. That's where we are right now, right? We're to the, let's see. If I refresh this page, oh no, we're not done. I still have just text here, and I need to turn this into a link. So if I look at the show route, which lives on journal entries show, I'm going to duplicate this link, and it's as simple as, wait a minute, is it as simple? Can I send a delete? Can I send a delete request from an href or from an anchor tag? What do I actually need to do here? How can I send a delete request? Or at least as far as what we've learned so far in Sinatra, how can I send a delete request? This is going to produce a GET request. Even if I say to journal entries ID somehow, well, I already have it here, the journal entry ID. This is a GET request. And I'm going to lose edit and remove this so it says delete. But how, so far in this course, what tools have we learned to send a different yes? Send 100%. Yes, you're all correct. We're going to build a form. Let's do that. So I'm going to save this for now because I want that action. My href is now going to become my action. I'm going to cut it. Oops. I'm going to grab the whole thing and cut it, maybe. There we go. And paste it. And remember that a form, I can't change the method here when I'm using a rack, when I'm using an application built on rack. But what I can do, which Justin already shared with me, I think, nope. Okay, maybe not. Okay, so the question stands. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and build my input for submit. Value is delete this entry. Okay. What do I need to put here? Let's see. How do I turn this form submission into a delete request? Anyone? There it is. There it is. Justin, I knew you had it. See, that's it. You came through right there. So we need a hidden, when we're using rack, again, rack defaults to post and get. So we included in our config.ru this line of code, use rack method override, which allows us to, on a form, include a hidden input with a which means type hidden, with a name of underscore method and a value that corresponds to the HTTP verb we're using, in this case delete. And now we should be able to send a delete request instead of a post request to this action. And remember, the delete plus the action is enough. I don't have to tag /delete on the end of this, right? I didn't write the route that way. I don't have to do that. And so now let's see what happens if we refresh the page. I think this, by the way, why do I have the extra dot there? Journal. Oh, it's not a dot, never mind, okay. And notice that the formatting is a little bit different, and I still have this link here, which I don't want anymore, right there. Save that. And we can adjust the formatting. Maybe that's something we'll do so that these buttons look similar. Because one's an anchor tag, the other's a button for a delete. And I also don't like how close they are, so I'm going to add some breaks here, just for good measure. So I don't want to try and click edit and accidentally click on delete. Cool. So now I've got these links, and they're only showing up hopefully on something that I own. I'm going to go ahead and delete this thing, and let's see what happens. This was journal entry number 1, by the way. And there I am back at the index. I don't see it anymore. If I go to journal entry /1, I should probably see like a no method for no class or something like that error. Or just couldn't find journal entry with ID, even more explicit. Great. Okay, looks like it's gone. So that's good. If I go to Justin, or one of Justin's posts, I should say, and there's nothing I can do. I can't try and delete this thing. If I try to edit it, it's also not going to work. So this is really good. So we're really getting somewhere now. So I at least can't delete. I have no access to a delete link anywhere. I'm not allowed to look at the edit page. That's good. So this is all looking. We're getting somewhere. Let's look at our spec file for a moment and think about what we have. We ensure that the belongs to now has full CRUD. I'm going to say that that's true. User has full CRUD on journal entries. And then ensure that users can't modify content created by other users. I think we have that now. Let's just see. Although, is there something missing from one of these? I'm just looking through these and seeing if I'm missing anything. I don't see anything missing right now. Maybe it was in the user's controller. User's controller. Okay. So I think we're good here so far. And let's just make sure if I try to create a new entry, I also want to make sure I can't create an empty entry, which I think we did as well. If I try to create a blank entry, I think I just get redirected back to this page, don't I? Yep. So that's good. Which was, let me log out. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and take, I think it was Tadea who suggested we don't show this nav bar unless we're logged in. That was in layout.erb. And if I'm not mistaken, there they are. And I'm only going to show this if logged in. And it's as simple as that now that I have that nice helper method. Oops. Save that, refresh this page. I'm logged out right now, so these things should go away. They should disappear when the page reloads. And they're gone. I think you're right. That's a much nicer look. Now when I go ahead and try and sign up with a new user, and let's say I'm just going to delete the password and try to create a user. I don't remember if we had validations on here. Let's just make sure that we do. I shouldn't be able, this should fail somehow. Okay, and if we look back in our terminal window, let's make sure that that failed. Here's our get sign up. There's post users. And notice we got nowhere. We didn't even try to commit anything to the database there, and we got sent back to post sign up. Let's just see if I say like a.com, password of password. Let's make sure I can't create a user without a name. I don't remember if we built that protection or not. Post users. It's loading and thinking about it. And it's back to get sign up. So it looks like we did put that in. I think we might have an application now that would pass that would pass our basic requirements. We've protected these. Don't show, edit, or delete links. Also use helper method in controller to ensure edit and delete actions can only happen if current user owns the entry. Okay. Delta, delete, metho, that sounds like Greek or something, method. Okay, maybe Latin, I don't know. Include user input validations. I just checked that both on journal entry and on user. Can't create a blank user or journal entry, so that's good. Can't create a blank user or, I can't spell, or journal entry, so that's good. And I don't have these yet, which I really want to add. I do need to build my README, and this really shouldn't be bonus. This is like something I need to do. But I am going to probably push that off until next week. You know what? I could probably do something really similar, really simple here. And this is not going to be quite enough, but a simple journal app that allows users to log in, sign up, and create journal entries. Users can also edit and delete their own entries. I can't spell delete today. Delete. I'm trying to type too fast is the problem. Okay, there we go. And I should put a license down here. And the nice thing about a license is I can just look up MIT license. Oh my gosh. Which is pretty much the standard developer license where you're saying, hey, anybody can use this. I'm not liable for anything if anything goes wrong. And that's pretty typical. So I could either link straight to this, right? I could say license MIT and use this as a link, or I could just copy it and put it right here at the bottom. I think that's what I'll do. And I'll say copyright 2018, Howard B. Dev, because that's my GitHub username. Okay, and there it is down at the bottom. Again, a link is fine. You don't need, if you just say MIT license with a link to this page, that's plenty. This part should be at the bottom though. Anyway, so this is pretty skimpy on a reading there. Any questions? Any questions about anything we've done today, anything we've done up to now? Right now I have a pretty basic but functional app where I can log in, sign up, I can create journal entries, I can delete them. And this should do it as long as I can talk about, oops, sign up. This is not the right page. Okay, here's something I don't like. I'm on the sign up page. I realize I actually want to sign in. I clicked the wrong link. So there's no way to fix that here. How could I, so this is bad. I need to be able to get from where I am back to my login page and not my sign up page. And I don't want to have to manipulate the URL because that's a bad user interface. So I want to add a link. So I'm going to find my sign up page, wherever that might be. Here it is. And I also need to put kind of a similar link to login. In fact, I'm going to use the same link. What I'll do is I'm just going to build a simple A tag with an href of slash, okay, and I'm just going to say back. And if I duplicate this, and I put it in login as well, I save that, I refresh the page, I can now go back, and that will take me home. And home gives me the links to log in or sign up. Okay, there, now that feels much better. And now when I go to log in, if I click the wrong button again, I'm like, oh wait, I have never signed up before. I could go back and go back to my login sign up page. Okay, so this is feeling okay. I'm feeling pretty good. Any questions? Is anybody like, wait, Howard, you didn't do this, or this? How is that going to pass, or whatever? Like, any questions right now? Now I've got my little nav bar up here. Definitely the styling kind of stinks, right? Was there a question? Okay. I'm inheriting Cornel's styling, which is at least better than nothing, but it's also not great. I've got my links up here, which I can navigate. I can always create a new entry. Once I see all the entries, I can click on any particular one, which then gives me the ability to edit or delete them, which I think that feels pretty good, as long as I own them. If I don't own them, I don't see those links. So this is all feeling pretty good. It's a very basic application, of course. And I look forward to making some changes. Some changes I'm going to make going forward as some stretch goals. I'm going to add another helper method to replace some of my code that's mucking up my controllers. I'm going to change the styling a little bit. I think I might add a title to journal entries, and when I look at them, I think I might change the formatting of that date. I think that'll look a little bit nicer. I don't know. I don't know what else I'll do, but that's probably the next steps I'll take. But at this point in time, if I'm in the program and I feel comfortable that I could schedule my assessment, and then I would like to practice talking about the flow in Sinatra and things like that. Any questions before we sign off? I think this is pretty good. We've built out an application that has the MVP core functionality. We've checked all the required boxes. Oh, the other thing I'm going to do for sure is add flash messages, because I really don't like that if I try to edit an entry that I own, and if it fails, I want a message back to the user that says this, you failed to do whatever. If I click on edit entry, for example, and I clear this all out, and I click edit entry, where do I go? I don't remember actually, we'll have to see. Uh-oh, that's bad, right? Did that actually update in the database? So this is definitely something that is not what we want. Okay, yeah, it did. Look at that. Uh-oh, commit transaction. This worked. So I just submitted a patch request to change the journal entry with a blank content, and it allowed it through. Oh, that's bad. That's very bad. So let's find where that happened. I don't want blank entries in the database. So that would be my patch. Okay, if logged in. Okay, so I simply call update. I also want to add an and. I want to make sure the params content is not equal to an empty string. Okay, so now I'm going to refresh this page. So that's something we missed, or I missed when we built this out. Calling update here, optimistically, assuming that somebody's going to have correctly filled out the form is not a good thing to do. As you get into Rails, we're going to learn a different way of validating besides just checking the params. We will learn how to add more validations to the models and use them to control the logic flow within our controller actions. But for now, we can simply check the params. That's fine. So now this will never hit and will actually be redirected back to my show page. I'm going to go ahead and edit this entry though, so that I can put some content back in. I'm going to say I can't wait to snowboard on Thanksgiving. Okay, now when I edit this, it should work. Slowly, but it will. And now if I click on edit, and I'm going to delete this now. If I click edit entry, we should, according to this controller action, it looks like we should get kicked back to my show page. But I don't like that. I don't like just getting kicked somewhere else without knowing what happened. I should get some feedback, right? Maybe I wanted to create an empty entry. Why did I just end up back on my show page? I want to see a message here that says, that specifically tells me what happened, or at least like your update failed at the very least. Okay, so we'll do that next time. Okay. Any questions before we log off today? We did it. We finished at least a MVP. I'm not super excited about how simple and basic this thing is and looks, but it does the job. Any questions as we log before we say sayonara and happy Thanksgiving?
This was awesome. Thank you so much, Howard.
Yeah, you're certainly welcome. I hope you and certainly don't. The videos are there. You're welcome to fork and clone. This is a public repository, so you're welcome to fork it, clone it, play with it, look at anything we did, suggest comments. By the way, for the record, as a disclaimer, like this in no way, shape, or form is this some declaration of this is how to do it, or these are the best patterns, right? I could point out a lot of things here that I don't love. For example, I don't love having a views with login and sign up just right there. I feel like I would feel better, I think, if we built a sessions controller or something like that to handle that kind of flow. That would feel better to me than just having them out here in the open. It's not the worst thing in the world. I definitely want to clean up. Even a controller action that looks this big is begging to me to be refactored a little bit. So I think I would really like to do that too. And I would like to add some CSS and those flash messages. So all those things. And there's a million ways to do everything, right? The important thing is that you understand the flow, how all this stuff works, and how you build all these implementations, okay? All right, well, have a happy Tuesday, everybody. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have questions about this application or about Sinatra in general, of course. Please continue to join the study groups. I will start up a fresh application, I guess, next week, probably when we come back from break, from our Thanksgiving break. Everyone have a happy Thanksgiving. Please have a safe and happy holiday weekend, assuming it's a holiday weekend for you. If it's not, go ahead and enjoy your weekend, even if it's not your holiday weekend. Enjoy our holiday weekend for yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Okay. So yeah, hope to see you all again soon, and happy coding. Don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you, everyone.